Camp Lazlo is an unforgettable series created by Joe Murray for Cartoon Network that graced our screens from 2005 to 2008. Spanning 5 amazing seasons and a total of 61 episodes, the show takes us to Camp Kidney, which is the base for our Bean Scouts and is located deep in the heart of Prickly Pines. In this vibrant setting, our main protagonist, Lazlo, finds a home in the Jelly Bean Cabin, sharing his days with his inseparable best friends, Raj and Clam. Before we get into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. Now, their antics are a staple of the summer camp, making every day an unpredictable journey. But it's not all smooth sailing. Lazlo often finds himself in a tug-of-war with Scoutmaster Lumpus, the camp leader whose pessimism is as legendary as Lazlo's optimism. Adding to the charm of this animated universe is Acorn Flats, located just across the lake. It's the home base for the Squirrel Scouts, an all-female group with a vibe akin to the Girl Scouts, providing a contrast and extension to the world of Camp Kidney. Here, we meet characters who are not just any camp attendees, but fascinating counterparts to the trio from the neighboring camp. There's Patsy, a mongoose brimming with adventure and harboring a not-so-secret crush on Lazlo. Then there's Gretchen, an alligator with a fierce temperament that matches her spirit. We can't forget Nurse Leslie, a pink nurse shark who's not only a healer, but also a doctor. And of course, there's Nina, the giraffe whose love for books and sci-fi is as towering as she is. Adding to this interesting mix is Miss Doe, a female deer who has caught the attention of Scoutmaster Lumpus from the rival camp. Now, there are a total of 8 recurring characters we see in each episode. The first is, of course, Lazlo. He's a Brazilian spider monkey with a quirky and optimistic personality, voiced by Carlos Alazraqui. Interestingly, Lazlo was first envisioned for a children's book, but creator Joe Murray realized a TV show was a better fit for his vivid tales. Now, Lazlo hails from Sao Paulo, Brazil. His parents moved to the US to start a fruit company, helping Lazlo become fluent in English. Originally, Murray imagined Lazlo with a strong Brazilian accent, but eventually he decided on an Americanized voice, with a different character, Raj, getting the accent. Lazlo's the leader of the Jelly Cabin Trio group, and Lazlo's personality shines through in the show. He's imaginative, free-thinking, and a bit of a mischief maker. Lazlo's catchphrase is Yucca when he comes up with a bright idea. And for a fun fact, Lazlo has a notable wardrobe detail. He owns 2 types of underpants, one greenish blue and the other light blue with turquoise leech-like shapes. I know this is totally unnecessary, but the folks at Cartoon Network made sure we noticed them. Next up, we have Clam. He's not your average kid. He's actually a short, white rhinoceros with a quiet demeanor. Clam isn't much of a talker, often just echoing the last few words of what others say. And he's got this deep, raspy voice that's pretty distinctive. Initially, Clam wasn't too fond of Raj, but he quickly warmed up to Lazlo and his eccentric ways. Now, here's the twist. Clam might seem unassuming, but he's actually a secret genius. He's got some impressive talents up his sleeve. For starters, he can whip through a 1,000-piece puzzle in under 10 seconds and count a massive pile of beans in a blink. But that's not all. He's an artistic prodigy too. Clam's also a bit of an inventor, making things like remote-controlled planes from hairdryers and long-log cars. Despite all his talent, Clam isn't chasing fame. He's happy just hanging out at camp with his buddies. Oh, and don't let his size fool you. Clam might be the smallest at Camp Kidney, but he's incredibly strong. There's a hint of romance too. Clam seems to have a crush on Gretchen, which is quite sweet. Lastly, Clam dreams of being a professional bathroom attendant. He's a bit misunderstood and often goes along with what others suggest, but deep down, he yearns to be heard and understood. Moving on to the third member of the Jelly Cabin Trio is Rajesh, fondly known as Raj, who is an Indian elephant. And let me tell you, he brings a unique flavor to the Jelly Cabin Trio in their series. Among his friends, Raj stands out for his nervous and cautious demeanor, making him the most relatable to anyone who's ever felt a bit out of place or anxious. But Raj isn't just a bundle of nerves. He has his moments of confidence, sometimes even coming off as a bit of a bully, especially towards his rival Samson. Despite his fears, Raj's heart is as big as his presence. He's incredibly sensitive, often moved to tears. Yet his love for fun and adventure keeps him going. He dreams of being a professional DJ one day, which proves his love for music and marshmallows. But here's a fun fact. Raj is allergic to bacon and has a unique way of pronouncing names like Lumpus for Lumpus. Moving on, we also have Samson Clogmire, and he's the underdog. Always clad in large glasses and seems to attract accidents like a magnet. He's this lovable nerd, incredibly neat, but his luck? Oh, it's really bad. Everyone at Camp Kidney calls him the Camp Wimp, and he often becomes the target of mild bullying by his peers. Despite this, Samson doesn't think he has any real friends, which is ironic because he's quite social and is seen mingling with almost everyone at camp. His usual companion is Edward, but their friendship is a bit one-sided, with Edward often dominating. He's also the postmaster at the camp, delivering mail between Camp Kidney and Acorn Flats. But there's more to Samson. He desperately wants to be noticed, often getting interrupted or ignored. He keeps a secret journal where he reveals his wish to be friends with Laszlo, and his life's backstory is a bit of a mystery. Some say he was adopted, while others think he lived with a single parent. Also among the campers, we have Chip and Skip, the uniquely amusing dung beetle twins. These two are inseparable, and they must stay dirty, or else they'll sleep for a century. Although not the sharpest, they're always up to something, often unknowingly aiding in Edward's schemes. And you can't miss them, they're the ones with a cloud of fruit flies buzzing around. These tall twins, standing at 6 feet 1 inch and born just seconds apart, are surprisingly members of the Genius Society. Their unexpected intellect shone through when they fixed a kaleidoscope, concocted a growth liquid, and even built a computer from nature. We also have Edward Platypus, the youngest son of Susan Platypus, and the secondary antagonist at Camp Kidney. He's a platypus with a real grumpy side, laughing at others' misfortune. That's him. He's got this rivalry with Laszlo, and he's always trying to prove himself. Edward is famous for his pranks, and he's also all about proving his toughness. Oh, and he's got a secret soft side too. He owns a doll named Veronica, but he tries so hard to hide it from everyone. Then, we have Scoutmaster Algonquin Casper Lumpus, the central antagonist from Camp Laszlo. He's a moose with a lot of attitude, stingy, grumpy, bossy, and so short-tempered that everything has to be just the way he wants or he loses it. Lumpus is always in a sour mood, possibly because his parents never really showed him love or trained him as a mime as he had hoped. What does bring him joy, though, is spoiling the fun for the campers, like taking away their home packages. And lastly, we have Slinkman, the unique yellow banana slug who works as the assistant scoutmaster under Lumpus. Okay, that's all in terms of main characters. Now, let's dive into the series itself. But instead of starting from the first season, we'll go back to the prequel movie called Where's Laszlo? By the way, this movie actually won an Emmy back in 2007. It was that good. So the story opens with Laszlo mysteriously disappeared, and his friends Clam and Raj are left to piece together the events leading up to this moment. So they try and remember all the way back to the time they first met. It all started when Raj and Clam first met and quickly ran into trouble with Edward, the camp bully. Edward, with his band of followers, often caused problems, but things escalated when Laszlo made his grand entrance. Laszlo, being the kind-hearted soul he is, soon finds himself at odds with Edward and the camp's authority figure, Lumpus. After deciding to name their cabin and decorating it with a totem pole, Laszlo hears a distressed animal and rushes to help, leaving Clam and Raj behind. He discovers a bear with a pine cone stuck in its nose. Laszlo fearlessly helps the bear, whom he names Fluffy. Fluffy, grateful and loyal, follows Laszlo back to the camp and, inadvertently, causes chaos when Edward and Lumpus try to confront Laszlo. Fluffy defends Laszlo, sending Edward, Lumpus, and the entire camp into a panic. The next day, a torn and gory-looking cap is found, leading everyone to believe the worst about Laszlo's fate. Meanwhile, Edward spins tales of his bravery, claiming he drove the bear away, seeking respect and admiration from the campers. But the truth eventually comes out thanks to Clam's keen observation. They find Laszlo safe and sound working in a restaurant. Although Laszlo is hesitant to return to Camp Kidney, his friend's visit convinces him otherwise. Back at camp, Laszlo encounters Fluffy again, this time with 2 pine cones in his nose. Laszlo resolves the situation by instructing Edward to help Fluffy, revealing Edward's true cowardly nature. The camp cheers as Fluffy and Laszlo share a heartfelt farewell. Back to the present, the story wraps up with Laszlo's surprise return, having been in the bathroom the whole time. Raj and Clam express their deep bond with Laszlo, emphasizing how they can't bear to be apart from their friend. Moving on to Season 1, the series starts with Edward, Samson, Chip, Skip, Dave, and Ping Pong trying their luck at fishing in Leaky Lake. But guess what? Instead of fish, they reel in a bunch of snow globes, leaving Scoutmaster Lumpus pretty bummed out. Lumpus is so determined that he vows to catch a fish himself. Then, things get funny. The Jellybean Cabin trio, Laszlo, Raj, and Clam, show up, startling Lumpus so much that he falls into the lake. He's furious and insists he'll catch a fish away from his clumsy scouts. Just then, Dave wonders if there are any fish in the lake at all. But this theory is dashed when Jane Doe and the Squirrel Scouts sail in with a boat full of fish, frustrating Lumpus even more. Here's where it gets wild. Laszlo wants to catch a fish for Lumpus, despite warnings about the terrifying sea serpent of Leaky Lake. Laszlo is determined to help out. His buddies Raj and Clam are in, but the others are too scared to join. The next morning, Sleek Man preps Lumpus's fancy bass eliminator boat. But the Jellybeans turn it into a plaything and accidentally zoom off in it, beating Lumpus and Slink Man to the punch. This sends Lumpus over the edge, and he chases them in a canoe. In a twist, surrounded by fog in the middle of the lake, the Jellybeans panic and mistakenly attack Scoutmaster Lumpus, thinking he's the sea serpent. This scuffle ends with Lumpus's boat sinking. Now they're all in Lumpus's canoe. Laszlo feels bad about the boat and offers to help Lumpus fish. But Lumpus, annoyed, sends them away. As he finally fishes alone, the real sea serpent shows up and, believe it or not, swallows him whole. While Laszlo initially respects Lumpus's wish to be left alone, Raj convinces him they need to rescue Lumpus. Laszlo bravely climbs atop the sea serpent, finds Lumpus, and even snags a fish from the serpent's mouth, thinking he's helped. Meanwhile, Lumpus, still stuck inside, sarcastically says he doesn't need help, which Laszlo takes literally. But soon, Laszlo realizes Lumpus really does need rescuing. In episode 5 of the same season, we also get the first appearance of Commander Hoo-Ha. So, this episode begins with Commander Hoo-Ha about to arrive at Camp Kidney for an inspection. And the stakes are high. In a twist, Edward sends Laszlo, Raj, and Clam on a wild mission to find a rare rock, one that's on the brink of extinction, to prevent the camp from failing the inspection. They manage to bring back this endangered rock, but here's the catch. Lumpus, thinking he's in the clear, had replaced the missing campers with potato sack dummies. Just as he's about to unleash his frustration on Laszlo, Raj, and Clam for what he thinks is a prank, Commander Hoo-Ha steps in. Furious, he scolds Lumpus for allowing the kids to leave camp unsupervised and, in a twist of fate, puts Lumpus in charge of taking care of the very rock he knew nothing about as punishment. In Season 2, we're also presented with a tiny history lesson from Lumpus, where he shares a tale about his great-grandfather, General Sherman Beauregard Lumpus, and his adventures in the Battle of Pimpleback Mountain, where his sole companion was his tent, Old Ironside. The plot thickens when the Jellybeans discover an array of beautiful items in the tent, leading to confusion and chaos. The spider-induced mishap causes Raj to damage the tent, and Lumpus is heartbroken upon seeing it in ruins, mistakenly blaming the enemy. Sleekman steps in to calm Lumpus with a frying pan tap, leading to a moment of reflection for the Jelly Trio. The twist, Sleekman reveals the true story of Pimpleback Mountain. General Lumpus was actually attacked by his own men for stealing from them, ending up in a circus cleaning up after elephants. In the same season, we're also introduced to a new character, Big Bean. It's a gorgeous morning, and there's a group of energetic Bean Scouts happily singing their way back to Camp Kidney. But they are shocked when they arrive to find their beloved camp being packed up on trucks. Everything's disappearing right before their eyes, and their guide Slinkman even gets accidentally scooped up with the camp gear. In this unexpected twist, Jane Doe arrives in her unique Acorn car and offers to take the Scouts to Acorn Flats. Why? Camp Kidney is closing down, and they need a new home. Patsy, smitten with Laszlo, is so upset at the thought of not seeing him again that she faints. Season 3 kicks off with a two-part episode, where Lumpus and Slinkman decide to boat over to the Squirrel Scout camp because Lumpus wants to chat with Jane. Now, Jane is busy, chairing a meeting for the Rock Buckskin fan club where she and Almondine are the only members. As soon as Lumpus shows up, Jane thinks he's also a fan and excitedly talks about seeing the play 7 Deadly Sandwiches at Camp Kidney. Lumpus, trying to impress her, fibs that he's playing the lead role in it. Now, Slinkman reminds Lumpus that the cast is already set, and guess what? The play is tonight. Despite this, Lumpus is so confident he believes any sane director would swap their lead actor for him. But here's the twist. Laszlo, of all people, is directing the play. And let me tell you, the rehearsal is a complete mess. We've got Samson allergic to his costume, Clam acting bizarrely, Laszlo frantically rewriting the script, Raj feeling awkward in his outfit, and Skip dealing with the frog that's eating his props. Laszlo tells Lumpus there's one role left for someone with true strength. Eager, Lumpus jumps at the chance. During rehearsals, there's more chaos. Actors bickering, Lumpus accidentally wrecking the set, Laszlo, unfazed, declares the play ready. Before the show, Lumpus presents Jane and Almondine with a gift basket he's been putting together. When the play starts, Raj flubs his lines, but the audience doesn't mind. Then as Samson, the skunkberry sandwich, delivers his line, Laszlo informs Lumpus that his role is to play a rock. While Chip and Skip are on stage, Clamp interrupts them. Lumpus tries to steal the spotlight to impress Jane, and Edward comes on stage, followed by Ping Pong, who teases Edward about his role. Meanwhile, Lumpus is loudly repeating Raj's lines. Jane, feeling hungry, decides to check the gift bag for snacks. Just then, Dave, dressed as a hemlock berry sandwich, is lowered onto the stage. Almondine finds a similar sandwich in the bag. Jane and Almondine finally notice Lumpus on stage and thank him for the sandwich. But then Lumpus blurts out that it's made of hemlock berries, just as Dave announces he's the most poisonous sandwich, also made of hemlock berries. In a panic, Lumpus jumps off the stage, landing right on Jane to stop her from eating the sandwich. Everyone cheers, the play is a hit, and a bewildered Jane praises Lumpus for his performance, inviting him and Slinkman for lattes. As everyone leaves, the chaos continues with Chip and Skip running away from the poisoned frog. In another episode from Season 3, Miss Jane Doe and Miss Mucus leave Acorn Flats for a couple of days. In their absence, they entrust Slinkman with the responsibility of overseeing the Squirrel Scouts. However, Slinkman quickly finds out that managing these scouts is no walk in the park. They're quite a handful. Repeatedly, Slinkman seeks assistance from Scoutmaster Lumpus, but the help he gets isn't exactly what he hoped for. Lumpus offers advice, but it doesn't sit well with Slinkman. Despite his reservations, Slinkman follows the advice and starts being tough on the scouts, especially after realizing they've hurt his feelings. This leads him to declare a Leave Your Scoutmaster Alone day. But this only results in the Squirrel Scouts feeling remorseful and trying to apologize, which Slinkman initially dismisses. Then things take a dramatic turn. A hailstorm strikes and a large hailstone hits Slinkman on the head. This moment of impact brings out a startling revelation for Slinkman, as he sees himself reflecting Scoutmaster Lumpus's image. Just then, he hears the distress calls of the Squirrel Scouts from the lake. Without hesitation, he rushes to the rescue, using Almondine's head as a makeshift motor to navigate the boat back to safety. However, Slinkman's luck runs out when a big wave strikes him. In a heartwarming twist, the squirrels now see Slinkman as their hero for saving them. The story wraps up with the return of Miss Doe and Miss Mucus finding the Squirrel Scouts happily playing jump rope with Slinkman, who leaps up with joy, cheered on by the slogan, "Go Scoutmaster!" Now, the real charm of this series lies in its diverse storytelling. It's not just centered around one character. Instead, each episode shines a spotlight on different characters exploring their inner worlds and unique personalities. This approach certainly added a lot of depth and variety to each character, making the entire series even more captivating and relatable. For example, one of the episodes from Season 4 revolves around Harold, the Walrus Scout member. We see the Bean Scouts gathered around a campfire immersed in storytelling. Raj just wrapped up a tale about magic carpets and flying marshmallows, earning roaring applause and admiration. It doesn't exactly wow the crowd. Feeling down, Harold confides in his pals Milt and Larison, doubting his storytelling chops and wishing he could be as cool as Raj. Cut to the next day, Raj, Laszlo, and Clam are deep into a game of Emperor Raj. But soon, the novelty wears off. Raj, frustrated, steps out for a snack, a marshmallow, which the Wynn rudely snatches away. Just then, a trail of marshmallows appears, leading him straight to Harold. Harold, trying to bond, points out their matching hats and eagerly agrees to hang out with Raj, doing whatever Raj loves. Fast forward, and we see them alphabetizing records, washing retainers, and even enjoying a boat ride. But Raj starts to notice something odd. Harold's interests and choices mirror his own, a little too closely. Laying on a hill watching clouds, Raj tests Harold, tricking him into agreeing that they share a favorite color. The realization hits Raj. Hanging out with Harold is like hanging out with himself, and it's frankly creepy. Meanwhile, Harold, now alone and feeling rejected, tries to fit in with others but ends up in tears. Raj, seeing this, decides to help Harold discover his true self. Harold dreams of being a superhero, with Raj as his sidekick. They make a dramatic entrance in the mess hall as Captain Banana Pants and Sticky Boy, but the response is lackluster. In a final attempt at heroism, they plot to save Scoutmaster Lumpus, leading to a hilarious series of mishaps. Harold, still searching for his identity, nearly fights Edward but gets interrupted by an outlandish toenail growth. Plot twist, this entire saga is actually Harold's campfire story, and it's a massive hit. The campers are thrilled, and Raj, curious, asks Harold's real name. But Harold, now confident in his own skin, prefers to keep it a mystery. In another episode, we see Samson feeling a bit low because he doesn't have any friends outside of camp. To boost his image, he spins a tale about receiving letters from Presto, a renowned magician claiming him as a friend. The plot thickens when Presto announces a one-night show in Prickly Pines. Samson is in a bind. He's got to convince Presto to visit Camp Kidney, otherwise his lie will be exposed. The drama unfolds at the show where Mr. Buns, attempting a magic trick, fails spectacularly. This leads to a heated moment where Edward accuses Samson of lying about knowing Presto. Just when the tension peaks with everyone doubting Samson, something unexpected happens. A limousine pulls up, and who steps out? Presto himself, affirming his friendship with Samson. This episode highlights Samson's vulnerability and his desire for acceptance, leading him to fabricate a friendship with Presto. It shows his struggle with honesty and gives the viewers something to relate to. Oh, and how can I forget this fan-favorite episode called Ed's Benedict? We first see the Jelly Beans and Samson up on their cabin roof, eyes peeled for exotic birds. But luck isn't on their side. All they see are their friends, Dave and Ping Pong, engrossed in a game of checkers, and Edward, who's headed to the lake with a rubber ring. Now, here's where it gets amusing. Raj, observing Edward, jokingly calls him a duck. Edward's quick to correct him, proudly declaring he's a platypus, not a duck, and definitely not laying any eggs. Fast forward to the next day, Chip and Skip wake Edward, and they end up gently saying good morning. And Edward, groggy and complaining of a stiff neck, suddenly notices something astonishing. A huge egg right between his legs. He's bewildered, thinking it's all a bad dream, but no, the egg is very real. In a panic, Edward consults Nurse Leslie, who tries to educate him with a film about platypuses. But just as it's getting to the crucial part, the film breaks. Edward, desperate to forget this bizarre incident, hides the egg in a plant pot and tries to act normal. But Nurse Leslie finds the egg and announces over the intercom that Edward is going to be a mommy. Frustrated, Edward hides the egg in a bear cave, trying to rid himself of the problem. But then, a heartwarming moment. He sees a bird's nest and feels a paternal instinct kick in. He retrieves the egg, names it after himself, and starts embracing his role, even announcing proudly that he's expecting. But it's not all smooth sailing. He becomes increasingly paranoid about the egg's safety, especially around people eating eggs. In a frantic search for safety, he ends up in the bird's nest from the beginning of the story, declaring tearfully that no one understands the struggles of being a mother. But then something unexpected happens. The eggs hatch, and Edward's egg reveals it's not even his species. The mother bird flies off with her chicks after a stern word with the bewildered Edward. The cherry on top, Dave and Ping Pong confess they planted the egg as a prank. Poor Edward, realizing he's not going to be a mommy, is left baffled. Now, the finale of the series isn't what any of us expected at all. So the episode dubbed Lumpus's Last Stand begins with Lumpus, who's pretty lazy, realizes it's finally time to do laundry because, let's face it, the campers have been in the same clothes all summer. His brilliant idea? Just flip the clothes inside out and let the wind do its magic. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work because the stench is too much. With no other choice, Lumpus and the campers head to the laundromat in Prickly Pines. Feeling a bit down about this whole laundry business, Lumpus gets a bit of comfort from Sleekman, his assistant, who tries to cheer him up by wearing socks. But plot twist, Lumpus only has one sock left. That night, Lumpus decides he's had enough of laundry woes and plans to escape into the woods. But then he steps in blue ink, which matches his one sock, and an idea strikes him. He's either onto something genius or totally nuts. The next day, Lumpus unveils his plan to the Bean Scouts. No more washing clothes. They're going to paint their clothes on. And it's not just any clothes. They can be creative with their designs. The campers dive into this idea head first. But then an owl cop on a motorcycle spots them. Lumpus thinks he's in trouble, but surprise, the cop loves the idea. He even tries it himself and promises to spread the word. Soon, Lumpus is a town hero. The mayor even celebrates his genius idea, which apparently saves everyone loads of time. But just when Lumpus is soaking up his fame, things take a turn. Two green moose from the future arrive, claiming Lumpus's idea ended world hunger and changed history. They even have a giant statue of him, but then a rainstorm hits, washing away all the painted clothes. Suddenly, Lumpus isn't a genius anymore. He's just the crazy guy who got everyone naked. And if that's not enough, the real scoutmaster of Camp Kidney shows up. Turns out, Lumpus was an imposter the whole time. The police arrest him, and he's still inciting his genius even as he's hauled away. I mean, the whole series had an imposter right in the center for the entire 5 seasons. And this complete lunatic pretended to be a scoutmaster after locking the other one away in a closet. And in the end, despite the chaos, Laszlo, one of the campers, thinks it's been the best summer ever. Even though their scoutmaster turned out to be a fraud, and they're standing there naked. For Laszlo, it's all part of an unforgettable summer adventure. And that's how the series ends, with Samson declaring that things can't get any weirder. And that's Camp Laszlo in a nutshell. Hit that like button if you had as much fun as I did, and dive into the next video for more mind-blowing content.